Hey there, everybody. It is Eric Lucas, your favorite real estate investor here in San Diego. And I wanted to make a real quick video on how to shoot yourself in the foot. This was a funny yet frustrating situation that we just went through trying to purchase a property. So we had a agent reach out to us on a pocket listing, and he told me, he had a seller that wanted to sell, and he wanted $500,000 for this property. So I ran the numbers, and at $500,000, it was a good deal. Not a great deal, but a solid deal. So I told him, no worries. We can give you the $500,000 your seller is asking for, and we can give you the listing on the back end. So we're ready to go. What do you want to do? He said, well, my seller's going to be real happy. We'll get the offer written up, and I'll get it signed, and we'll have a deal. 2 days later, he calls me and says, you know what? I need to shop this to some other investors. So I said, okay. No worries, I understand. We're still going to be interested. So he shops it to a few other investors, and it ends up getting bid up. We end up bidding it up to the low 500s, and I tell him at that point though that okay, we can pay low 500s for this property, but we can't give you the listing in the back end. It's too skinny. He said, all right, you know what? No worries. I had to do right by my client, and I respect that. So no big deal on the end listing. We're excited to get a deal done, in the low 500s. So I said, great. Get the contract signed, and we'll get this thing closed, and we'll go from there. He calls me a few days later, and he says, hey, I changed my mind. I'm going to put it on the multiple. And now I'm a little frustrated. I'm like, come on, man. Why can't we just get this deal done? You're happy. Your seller's happy. And he says, no, we're going to put it on the multiple, but no one's going to outbid you. Sure. It got bid up to over $600,000, and that buyer did not perform. They went with a backup buyer in the high 500s. That buyer did not perform. But this guy's elderly sellers now were overwhelmed and decided that it was too much stress and they didn't want to sell the property. So he pulled the listing and no longer has the listing. So kind of frustrating, kind of funny. I guess this is the way it goes. But, from my standpoint, the seller would have been happy at 500. The seller would have been happy at 525. The sellers were elderly. They didn't want a lot of drama. They didn't want a lot of hassle. They didn't want it on the MLS. They had a number in mind. We hit that number. Then we exceeded that number. And then, he thought the right thing to do was to put it on the market when, in this case, it might not have been. Because he totally overwhelmed the sellers, and now they pulled the property, and who knows what will happen now. Maybe they'll relist it in a year and the price will be higher, or maybe they'll relist it in 3 years after the next crash and they won't get as much money. So when it comes to fiduciary responsibilities and and all that stuff, it can be tricky to do right by your client. But in this case, if the client was happy at 500 or 525, well, why not just take it and make it an easy transaction on him? And in the end, he overwhelmed his client, which wasn't in their best interest, and he cost himself a large commission, which wasn't in his best interest. And of course, we lost the deal, and we're upset about that too. So anyway, just a story from the battlefield that's happened over the last few weeks on this deal. Actually, over the last month now, but it's the way it goes. So. Anyway, funny story I wanted to share with everybody out there on Facebook, and I don't know, maybe you can relate, maybe you can't, but worth a view, I guess. Take care.